Hello guys, welcome to my presentation on lay expertise and nuclear power. So the article you guys read described basically a real-life example of lay experts, specifically in the AIDS epidemic. So the epidemic prompted many social groups, especially those made up of gay white males, to do their own research into HIV, and the article went into detail about how those groups worked together with the scientific research community, mainly during the 80s. So one of the big concepts to glean from that reading is how lay experts and scientists sometimes disagree on the best way to do things, in this case to test AIDS drugs on the population. So a lot of lay experts kind of went against the scientific grain, claiming that in the short term, tests that weren't necessarily clean were faster and more representative of the population as a whole, because many people who had previously participated in drug tests were ineligible for the new tests since their bodies were kind of deemed contaminated, and this was a big waste of time according to those social groups. So this is a pretty common theme in the study of other types of lay experts. These groups kind of act as a sort of connection or liaison between researchers or policymakers and society as a whole. Especially marginalized groups like gay men, which was seen in the reading. So the real world application that I'm going to be looking at today is nuclear power, which is, anti-nuclear power social groups and protests have been around since the first power plant was made, but they really started to gain traction in the 1970s, where groups like the Critical Mass Energy Project, founded by Ralph Nader, lobbied against nuclear power and weapons. In addition to protesting, they worked with plant companies to make sure safety regulations were more closely followed. And you can see that Ralph Nader, who was a presidential candidate and environmental activist. While these lay experts mostly aren't nuclear physicists, they noticed that safety regulations and waste disposal over time were concerns that should be addressed. And these activists have been really effective over the years. Lobbying and protesting have resulted in a drop in total nuclear power plants, especially since the 80s and since Chernobyl. And of course, public opinion is everything. And these lay experts have been extremely effective in what they've wanted to do. And the picture shown there is the Fukushima nuclear disaster of 2011, which dumped large amounts of cesium, which is a radioactive element, into the Pacific Ocean. And this was attributed to the TEPCO electric company in Tokyo bypassing safety regulations. And this was kind of motivated protesters to go out and be more active in general. Similar thing happened with Chernobyl in the 80s. So this example is slightly different than the one in the reading, because these groups are mostly influencing policy and trying to stop the takeover of nuclear power as the main source of energy. With the AIDS example, the social groups were more keen to working directly with scientists to simply speed up the process. Here, they're trying to, it's more of a social movement than a research movement. But regardless, the fact that these lay experts went, toe-to-toe with the scientists made for a very interesting dynamic. And with issues like nuclear power, regardless of who's right and who's wrong, the existence of social groups who do research and work with scientists is extremely important, especially since nuclear power is an issue that affects all of us, and it's really important to be informed if we want our voices to be heard. And that goes for any subject. So I have a few discussion questions. First one is, in the midst of an epidemic where we need to make quick decisions and develop a vaccine as soon as possible, is it beneficial to have these lay experts try to work with scientists, or are there too many competing ideologies to work efficiently? And second question is, lay experts don't really have to be people with direct experience or even extensive knowledge about a topic. What big scientific issue would you be most interested in assisting research in, and in general learning more about? And that's all I got. Thank you for paying attention.